Whew. Right? I know. What an end to the program. What an end to that program. Holy cow. That guy was upset. After the call, like my board op was signaling me during that call, should I cut this call? And I'm like, nope, let him go. Let him say his piece, let's get it out here. Because if he's asking the question, I'm sure there are other people listening to the show asking the same question. It was a little unexpected because he was supposed to talk about GIF or GIF, and that was what we were expecting. So he was very opinionated about it. The creator says, which, I Googled it too, of course, before we talked about it on the air. And yes, the guy who created the GIF or GIF, the graphic format, says it is GIF with the J sound, GIF, not GIF. So yes, according to him, I've been mispronouncing it my entire life. But apparently, there is enough of a dissent here where there's actually websites like how to correctly pronounce GIF.com. And they say it's pronounced GIF, like gift without the T. And it was supposed to be a joke, right? It was supposed to be like, we all are divided over everything, right? So are you team GIF or team GIF? It was a joke. But it just... So anyway, to answer the questions, he brought up some interesting questions during the After Schrock. So I didn't plan on kicking off the segment here by talking about the, GIF man. But, one of the things I only had like 2 minutes left on the show, and I needed to get to the China story. So I didn't have time to go into it too terribly deep. But if I go down here, oh man, where is that one? Please call. David Burris has a bad drive. His failing hard drive, his C drive, is 52% in his computer. It's a laptop. Here's a link to it in our online system. Please call to let him know that his computer has a problem. This is an automated email that's sent to the front desk of the service center he's been to last, and then I get a copy of it so that I can follow up and make sure that David gets a call. So the Omaha Service Center should be giving David a call sometime today or tomorrow to let him know his hard drive is literally half dead, right? Let's see. So that email landed in my inbox. This particular one was Thursday, 3:25. I know there's been more since then, but I've responded to some of them from my phone. Let me see. Scrolling back. Let's just do a quick search here. I'm just curious because has a bad drive is a good thing I can search for that's not going to be in every email. So I'm going to look through my sent items folder for has a bad drive. This month, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We only call you if your C drive is failing. If it's one of your external drives, your backup drive, we don't call you over that. Unless, of course, you're under warranty, then we do. So 13 people have C drives that are in some state of failure that we have caught with Drive Advisor. These are Schrock customers that come in for their service at Schrock. And yes, we actually call them. The reason I wanted Delaney to let him go. I've been in the industry longer than you've been around. I know better than you. What is this garbage you're talking about? Computers only lasting, 18 months. Let him say his piece. Let him, because this is legit, right? This is what other people are saying when they're hearing the show. The people that disagree are saying this to their radio. So let him get it out, right? And then we can go back and talk about it. So that man right there is the reason I started Schrock Innovations. That right there. The holier than thou, I'm better than you, I know better, my way is the absolute truth and there is no dissent from my way, and anyone who disagrees with me is a charlatan. That, in a microcosm, is how every computer IT repair shop works. Everywhere. Do what I say or you're an idiot. Now, if you bring your computer into me infected with viruses, and you're running AVG, and you're infected with viruses, it's not a logical stretch for me to tell you AVG isn't protecting you from viruses. Free antivirus is not as good as high-quality paid antivirus. There is paid antivirus that's actually worse than AVG, like McAfee. So, we recommend Sophos. This is why we recommend it. We have a virus-free guarantee with it, and you get local service and support behind it. We will take care of you. We highly recommend that you move to Sophos. But we give you the choice. It's a recommendation. Just like my doctor recommends I exercise more and eat fewer peanut butter cups, right? I try to exercise more and I try to eat. My son loves them, so, if I buy a six pack, I might get two, right? So, whatever. Better his butt than mine, right? He's a growing boy. He needs peanut butter. Get him some Jif, right? So we are designed to communicate. So ball bearings. He was hung up on ball bearings, right? So yes, I could sit here and explain the difference between a ball bearing fan and a brushless fan, like a magnetically levitated fan, and a fan that rotates on ball bearings. Most of your CPU processor fans are brushless. Most of your case fans now are brushless. Most of your case fans in cheap computers have ball bearings because they're cheap. They're cheaper to make. They wear out. You hear that roaring in your power supply? Brrr. Your power supply was built with a ball bearing fan. One of the bearings isn't working. It's damaged. It's not turning properly. Okay, so, or it's a brushless fan, I guess, that has a piece of debris stuck in it. But if it's magnetically levitating, it's not going to make noise, right? I mean, these are some common sense things. So no, not every computer has a ball bearing fan in it. I get that. Totally get that. He's not wrong. But that doesn't invalidate the fact that some fans have ball bearings, and it's an illustrative point of maintenance. That physical things that physically move, still break, right? Hard drives that physically move still break. Fans that physically turn can stop turning. There is thermodynamics involved in laptops, especially. Heat pipes, if they get too hot, they swell. They're liquid cooled. The liquid inside evaporates and then cools and moves back down again to evaporate again. It's a circle of life kind of thing, right? When the heat pipes expand, little molecules of water can escape through the heat pipes. Over the long period of time, 8 months to a year, if you're using your computer on a blanket or a pillow or a lap on your lap, actually, which you're not supposed to do, if you're blocking the intakes, you can cause damage to the cooling system, which is why when a customer comes in, says, my laptop is running hot, we don't just replace the fan like every other shop in town does. We replace the heat pipes too. Because if the fan wasn't working, the heat pipes are probably damaged. So we can replace the fan and it'll cool better than it did with a broken fan, but it's not going to work as it was intended because the components in the computers are only designed, they're engineered to last. Look at what, sorry, I get emotional about this because manufacturers make things. And everything that's made has basically a number of hours of use before it's expected to fail. The manufacturer's expected failure time. If you calculate that out for using a computer, it's around 18 months. They don't even warranty the battery anymore. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. Ooh, I think I'm going to sneeze. I almost sneezed. Whew, that was crazy. So anyway, why did we let him go? Why did we give him the rope? Well, we gave him the rope so that we could use him as an educational example. And his points are not invalid. His points are valid. He represents a significant view of people out there that computers are disposable, that computers do not need maintenance, that basically, the best part of his call was when he started, first of all, I don't know if that accent was real, but then in his call, he sounded like he was from Australia or England or something, and then in his call, he started to talk like a Gomer, like, this is Schrock or Shrek or whoever you are, and I'm going to come to your house. It's 8 o'clock at night. I'm going to come to your house, okay? Well, first of all, number one, we close at 8. That's my brilliant comeback. No, we wouldn't call you after 8 because we close at 8. Sorry. But we would call you the next day. Number two, we don't come to your house unless you want us to come to your house. We're going to call you and tell you your hard drive is dying. Sometimes customers tell us it's okay because we're just moving information off of this old computer and putting it onto this new computer we got from you. So it's all right. We know the hard drive is bad, but we're not going to keep the computer. No need to keep alerting customers then, right? Okay, great. Done. Our job is to call you and let you know what's going on. We send email too, but email's unreliable. Like, it gets to your Gmail, it goes to your promotional folder. It's not a promotion, but it does. Or a spam folder or something, and then you don't see it, and you don't know your hard drive's going bad. What good is Drive Advisor for you then if you don't see the alert? So the phone call is to make sure that you actually know about the alert. then we give you options. If you want us to fix it, we'll fix it for you. Of course, that's how Drive Advisor profits Schrock Innovations, is that when people who are not under warranty find out that their hard drives are failing and they have an existing relationship with Schrock, the hope is that given the goodwill and the relationship that we have built up, that they would trust us to replace that hard drive for them going forward. That's why we do it. It's a relationship builder. It also is good service. When we have warranties on our computers and we can actively monitor them, this is the thing that's changed in the last 22 years of the IT industry. 21 years ago, that guy was the IT industry. That's what I came up with. I've told this story before, I'm sure, but when I decided to start a computer repair company, I was trying to upgrade my computer. I had a Windows 3.1 desktop computer that I won in a contest. I loaded Windows 95 on it. It started running slow. Sound familiar? Upgrade your operating system, things run slower. Okay. So I start buying used computers out of the newspaper and like trying to take parts out of them to put into my computer to make my computer better. Because where do you go to buy a memory upgrade? There was no eBay. There was no Amazon. You can go to Best Buy maybe and buy it. There was a Computer Renaissance, was a computer repair store. They sold used computers. And so I called them up because I needed to know how to get into the BIOS to change something. And it was F10. All they had to do was say, when the computer turns on, just start mashing the F10 key. This is where the 2-minute rule at Schrock came from. This experience right here. I called Computer Renaissance and said, I need to get into my BIOS. And they said, for $55, you can bring that in here and we'll show you how to do it. All they had to do was tell me to mash the F10 key, and I would have bought every stick of memory from them. I would have bought every hard drive from them. I would have bought everything from them. They would have had a relationship with me. Maybe I wouldn't have started Schrock. But nope, the $55 was more important than just helping someone in a moment of need with a small piece of information that was like, I could understand if I was saying, how do I extract the data from my hard drive without using my computer? I want to take the hard drive out and hook it up to another computer. How do I do that? How do I set the jumpers and everything? I could understand that if they were like, for that we need you to come in. I would have my guys say, you need to come in. We don't want you messing with that. How do I flash my BIOS? We'll tell you kind of briefly the concept of flashing a BIOS, and then we're going to tell you why you shouldn't do it unless you're having a problem, because you can brick your whole computer, right? So there are times when you can just help people. Simply telling me to press F10. Well, they wouldn't do that. And when I figured out that's all it was, that really ticked me off. It took me half a day, and I figured it out because I was smashing buttons, right? I figured it out. I got in, got done what I needed to get done. That's where Schrock came from. That experience right there. So that's why we do what we do. So yeah, it probably is. I mean, obviously the call was antagonistic, right? And obviously I felt the strong urge to vigorously defend what we do at Schrock. But when I stop and think about it for a second, the way he responded is exactly how the industry was 20 years ago. And the industry has changed. Everything is MSP now, service provider, right? So everybody wants to remotely handle your security. Everybody wants to remotely handle your IT infrastructure. The tools that we deploy to consumers are the tools that are available right now to businesses, right? Where your updates are done for you, Secure Updater. Where your hard drive is monitored for failure, Drive Advisor. Where your security status is monitored in real time by a network administrator, Sophos. Where if something breaks, you just call your IT guy, the Schrock desk. Where if you have a problem with your computer, you call the IT guy and he fixes it, and you don't have to pay a bill. Our refundable warranty program. So everything that we are doing for customers are services that are given to businesses, but nobody wants to screw with customers because customers are messy. Customers are emotional. Customers, they'll go to the cheapest provider. They don't care about you. They don't care about the relationship. They'll stab you in the back. They'll call your show and make nasty comments about you. They'll leave you a bad review after 10 years of great service, and then you have one bad experience. They'll leave you a negative review over that because service ain't what it used to be. Customers are messy, right? It takes effort and time. You have to hire the right people. You can't just hire super smart techs. You got to hire communicators. And it's hard to find communicators. Most of the time, they're not super smart techs when you find them. You got to make them into super smart techs, which means you got to have a training program, which means you have to have leadership, which are all things that are very expensive to do. So you can sit here and dink around with consumers and make your nickels and dimes over here, or you can go out and grab corporate customers over here that are going to have you cover 30 or 50 computers and charge them 5s, 10s, and 20s, make a lot more money for your effort, make me a lot more profitable of a company, and move on in life. And we could totally do that. That Grand Island lost. How many times in this program have you guys preached to me to open one in Grand Island, right? Because Grand Island lost their consumer computer repair company. They decided they were done with consumers. They wanted the big money. They were going after businesses. The consumers can figure it out on their own. We do consumers. Everyone thinks we're nuts. We love it. We love it, number one, because if no one else wants to do it, you better believe we'll do it. And we're going to be damn good at it. We're going to do a good job for people. And they'll pay us a fair price for the work that we're doing. Now, yes, that might mean we have to manage 25,000 relationships instead of managing 500 relationships for the same amount of profitability. It doesn't seem to make sense on the surface, but it's our DNA. It's who we are. It's what we do. So anyway, let me jump into the comments here before we get into GIF and GIF stuff, the fun stuff. The Aftershock is supposed to be fun, right? It's not supposed to be like, yeah, Ronnie, wow. I love it. People started, I saw a laughing cry face. I saw people on Facebook were reacting as he was talking. And I'm just sitting here and I'm trying to control, I know I'm on camera, right? So I'm trying to control my face. I wanted to just be like, but like I said, the guy has valid points, right? I mean, there are things that he said that other people are saying, that other people are thinking. And so to just write him off as a kook would be a mistake. Again, that comes from that consumer orientation. The customer is never wrong. In our IT brain, the customer might be talking to us about the computer's cache memory, or the customer is never wrong. We don't correct the customer's grammar. We don't correct them and say, do you mean the cache memory? Because that's what they did 20 years ago. That makes people feel stupid, and that nothing says let's build me a good relationship making people feel like idiots, right? Wow, we all like that. There are things in this world I don't know about. You know what? I have a diesel truck. First diesel vehicle I've ever owned in my life. Left it out in the cold for 2 days. And the diesel gelled in the filter. I called the dealership because my truck wouldn't start. I had it towed into the dealership. It's under warranty. What's our fix or repair daily? I'm a Ford guy, but man, this thing has 20,000 miles on it that won't start. What's going on? It was my fault because I didn't know how to maintain my vehicle. Now that guy at Ford, you knew they were laughing at me back there. It was a mistake. So then I'm like, okay, so what do you do about this? Because sometimes I will need to leave it outside. I'm going to need an engine heater, right? So I'm looking up prices and I'm saying, hey, do you guys install those? And he goes, yeah, we install them, but you see, sir, your truck's already equipped with one. You just have to pull the cord out and plug it in. I felt like a moron. Oh my gosh. But he was nice about it. He was kind about it. He showed me where the plug was. He showed me how to use it. Told me the temperature cutoffs or when I should have it plugged in and when I don't need to. Gave me some information, educated me a little bit so that he empowered me, so that I would be able to handle maintaining the equipment on my own. What we're doing is not so different. I take it to another dealership. Maybe they look at me and say, it's just gelled, man. You could have just poured this gel unlocker fluid into your tank and you'd have been fine. You didn't have to buy a new filter and everything. They done you dirty. They ripped you off. All right. Good morning, Mitch. Good morning, Richard. Too bad he doesn't understand your business model, right? And I don't know if he was actually from a foreign country or not. I have no idea. Tomato, tomato. GIF and GIF, huh? Back with you, Karen. Karen and I are having our coffee and enjoying the show. Good to have you, Roger. Good morning, Alan. Deborah, good to have you. South Dakota, out of donuts this morning. Oh, don't you pull a Winston on me now. Go take off without your phone and go get some donuts. But my wife wants donuts. Well, then, you can't argue with Winston. He had to do it. All right. Hello, everyone. Hello, Mark. Alan, well, I detected a British accent, and their sense of humor is rather different. Yeah, I've been watching some British TV. They do TV pretty good, though. Some of those British shows are pretty good. You have some background noise. Someone else talking. Yeah, the speakers are up just a little bit in here right now. They're monitoring the listening to the station so that they know what's going on. They want to make sure they don't have dead air. Let's see. Typical IT guy. This is what you get at other stores. Exactly right. That is exactly right. Good audio. Thank you, Winston. Appreciate it. All right. There's a church service on the air. Yep. The guy was jealous. If he knew better, he would have his own business and or a radio show. Well, like I said, there are people out there that know things that don't have radio shows, and there are people who are really good at what they do. That's the thing that makes us different. So every business needs something that differentiates itself, right? Our differentiator is communication. We have a competitor in Lincoln. We do not typically get along. I haven't talked to the guy in years, but we don't get along well. I call him my bald German nemesis. He owns a competing computer repair company. We have sued him. He has sued us. Lawyers. Half of the existence of our company, we've been engaged in some lawsuit with this company, with this competitor, for various things. We have a radio show in Lincoln. The original Compute This radio program started on 1240 AM KFOR. For a brief period of time, we explored another radio station in Lincoln to see, should we move the show or not. They were changing the format of KFOR at the time. We were concerned about that, so we thought maybe we should take a look at, there's only one other AM station in town that does news talk. So maybe we should go over there. So we ran a 6-month trial of a different show. We couldn't call it Compute This for various reasons in the market. They didn't want confusion about what station was running what. So, we called it the Help Files. And we ran another show. And it was the first time I did a show by myself without a co-host. It was awful. I was totally not ready for that. And the show didn't do well, probably because I was awful. But anyway, apparently what I found out shortly after, we called up the radio station and we said, hey, we would like to try this out. We're over here on KFOR right now. We want to try this out. And the station said, sure, Mr. Schrock, we'll get you on. And, here's what the price is. And, good to go. What I found out after we canceled the show, after we ended the program there, was that while we were calling to get on the air, this competitor was also calling for a radio show. They wouldn't put him on the air. They refused to, and they said, well, you're going to put Schrock on the air, or Schrock's on the air, why can't I be on the air? And, the honest answer was, well, Schrock is Schrock and you're not. That's the honest answer. But, of course, radio stations won't say that because they want them to buy commercials and stuff, too. KFAB said that to me the first time around. I called up Gary. I'm like, I want a radio show. They're like, yeah, you and every other UFO nut wants a radio show. Click. And literally, at any price, they were not going to have us on the air. And so I had to spend time actually working on the show, working on delivery, listening to the program, listening to how I talk, trying not to say at any rate. That was one of the big things back in the day. I'd say at any rate, after everything I said, at any rate. Moving on, at any rate. And I had to really make a mental effort to not do things like that, to not say like, or ums, or us. The things that when you listen to AM radio and you listen to somebody who's doing radio for the first time, you can hear the difference, and you can't put your finger on it. But that's the difference, that communication. Schrock's a communication company. We're a data company and a communication company that happens to fix computers and happens to sell information technology hardware, computers, and computer-related equipment. But everybody needs tech in their life. You need somebody that can talk to you about how to use the tech. You need somebody you feel comfortable to when you don't understand why your iPad's not getting its email, and somebody who can literally flip a slider on the screen. Somebody who doesn't know anything about an iPad can fix it, and you couldn't. But you don't feel dumb when you leave. You feel like you had a friend that could help you out with that. And that's what we try for. Great job handling the Joker. Can you perform maintenance checkups on Google tablets? I'm going to be straight with you here, Randy. There isn't really a reason to. Your Android tablets are obsolete, literally obsolete. If they can't be updated to newest versions of Android, they're obsolete after a couple years. They're obsoleted by Google after a couple years. If you can go up to the newer versions of Android operating system, they run slower and slower and slower because the demands of the new operating system is more intense, and of course your hardware can't be upgraded. So it's going to run a little slower and a little slower. So if it's slowing down, that's why. There are no fans. There's nothing to clean out. There isn't really any kind of optimization or maintenance because all the storage is solid state, so it's not like we can defragment the hard drive or anything to make it faster. there's really no reason to have an Android tablet in for maintenance. The only things you really need to do with an Android tablet is you should have some antivirus on it. I recommend Sophos. Same thing for your iPads. And a screen protector and a good case. Really, that's all you need for those, to be honest. So, that's the other difference. I'm not going to charge you $90 to run a maintenance checkup on a tablet. Now, if it's a Windows 10 tablet, it's a different story. There's a lot of things that we can do with a Windows 10 tablet that make a maintenance checkup worthwhile. We can make Windows run faster, even though we're not changing the hardware. We can remove programs that are starting up when the computer starts up. We can clean up the registry. We can remove unnecessary files from the hard drive. We can adjust your privacy settings for you. There's a lot of things that we can do to one of those devices to make life work better. With an Android tablet, not so much. Same thing with an iPad, not so much. There's not really a reason to have maintenance done on iPads. But your MacBook does need maintenance. So that's kind of the difference, even though they're very similar devices. Yeah, don't use your laptop on your lap. Yeah. Well, now they call them notebooks, you see. Yeah, now they're notebooks. You're not supposed to call them laptops anymore because you don't use them on your lap. Because apparently it does bad things to boys. I don't know. And it's bad for the computer. That's the official reason. I wish you would have said chit chit cheerio to that guy before you cut him off. By the way, you called me when my hard drive was failing. Well, thank you, John. I appreciate it. We do call people when their hard drives are failing. We don't ask if we can come over to your house. That'd be kind of creepy, especially if I said it like that. Hey, John, what you doing? Your hard drive's bad, man. Can I come over to your house? Yeah, I agree. That would be creepy. We don't do that. I don't understand why anyone would have a beef about monitoring hard drive health. Makes no sense to me. I use Drive Advisor. Yep. And it's not just because she's my wife either. Waiting for maintenance checkups via the Schrock desk, excluding some of the things you can't do over the Schrock desk for customers living distantly. This is something that during the pandemic, we thought long and hard about. Very much so. During a maintenance checkup, we dust out all those fans because the fan pulls air over a radiator, you see. And the radiator collects dust through static electricity, or if you have a smoker in your house, that tar will gather it, or if you have a pet in your house, one little hair can start a blanket, right? And eventually, after 6 months or so, you're getting 50% less air through that fan. Computer will still run just fine, just runs a little slower. Intel has speed step technology. AMD has cool and quiet tech, especially Ryzen processors. They run slower when they're hot. I can go technical if you need me to, but the moral of the story is blow the fans out once every 6 months and the computer runs faster. And it runs safer. It runs less hot, which means the fans turn at a lower speed because the fans are sensitive to the speed. The computer ramps up the fans when the computer's running hotter. So if the computer runs cooler, the fans don't run as hard, which means your brushless fan or your ball bearing fan will last longer. Anyway, basic concepts. But yeah, Loanne, I agree. We want to do something. The challenge, though, is, how do we do a maintenance checkup over the internet without it sounding like a fix-me stick? You've heard of the fix-me stick, right? Well, anything wrong with your computer, you just plug in this flash drive and it fixes everything. It's a fix-it stick. Just fixes everything. Bam! Fixed. If that really worked, guys, you know what I would have in my service center? Instead of technicians, I'd have a bucket of fix-it sticks. And I just plug one into every computer that came in and reboot them. And then think about the service turn time. We'd have the computers back within an hour. Hey, we fixed it. What did you do? I hit it with a stick. No, really, what did you do? No, for real. Like, I stuck a flash drive in it and rebooted it. That'll be $90, please. I don't know what I'm doing to it. I use a fix-it stick. Where do I get one? I don't know. I buy them on Amazon. Oh gosh, yeah, Deborah. F10 was the command to. Thanks to F10. So yeah, so that's why we have Schrock. Thank you, F10. That was the command to get into the BIOS on a compact computer, a compact 486 SX computer. We use a metal dish rack. You can buy at your local big box store to put our laptops on while using them. The legs on the rack straddle your legs, and it leaves a gap between the bottom of the lap and the laptop. Very innovative, Mike. Setup. Are all computers F10? I thought it was delete. Very good question, Ronald. No, all computers are not F10. For example, most computers are delete or F2. HP is F10. Asus to bring up the boot, like if you want to boot off a flash drive, is Escape. So there's different brands, all have different commands. For Apple, it's like a 3-finger combination, Apple Option C or something like that to boot from a what am I, Porky Pig? A disk or a USB flash drive. So there's a lot of different combinations for different devices. Cheryl and Rich, welcome aboard. Scott, should I be concerned that my iPhone constantly says it's not backed up? Well, it's not backed up probably because you don't have it set up for an iCloud backup. So if you want to make sure that the photos on your phone, primarily it's photos, are backed up somewhere so that you don't lose them, you should connect that to an iCloud account. I believe you get a certain amount of storage for free, but then, of course, that's never enough storage, so you do have to purchase a storage plan, which is one of the reasons Apple nixed iTunes, because they want everyone to use iCloud and buy storage plans with recurring revenue. Do you have room in iCloud? Oh, there you go. At least you don't circle back. Oh, see, I'm trying to keep us from being divided here, right? You know, and when Liberty Daily, whenever they put a picture of her on there, they put a picture of her with the little Chucky doll face over her face, and it's like, I get it, you know, but wow, circle back. All right, you said my pet peeve, the word like, it should be removed from the dictionary. Like, I totally agree with you that the word like is like completely worthless. What was it? I remember this when I was in grade school. They would print like a telephone directory for the students, right? And people would buy ads in there. And the Keens were a family in Omaha. Martha Keen went to Harrison Elementary School with me, and her parents would buy ads in the grammar ads, basically. And I'm trying to remember the grammar lesson. It wasn't like. It was seen. Yeah, I seen that. And they'd the grammar lesson right there in the phone book for all the kids to see, and it was back in the print days, back in the 80s. Wow, must have been, well, you know, Mary, I got trolled right at the end of my own show, so everyone wants to hear what I'm going to say about it. So that's why we're up to 105. Not even talking about Bitcoin. This is just like straight up link bait, basically. Thanks for the information. It's my mother's tablet. I'll be bringing it in for Sophos. Awesome. Yeah, it'll only take us like 5 minutes or less to install Sophos on that tablet for you. My Dell I bought in 1996, 133 megahertz, was built much better than PCs that are built today. The hard drives, cooling fans, CD drives, which all use ball bearings, were probably built to last 10. Today's electronics seem plastic and cheap. No, you're not wrong, MD. The electronics today are built to a different standard. And part of it, it's not a nefarious thing. I mean, in some ways it is, but in some ways it's not. And I love how, you know, the HP thing pops up and says there's no parts available for your computer, which is obviously not true. And he says, that's just a marketing thing. Okay, but yet this is a whole show that's marketing Schrock Innovations, and you have a problem with it. So, yeah. So anyway, the computers that are built today, the microchips are so much thinner. We're talking 7 nanometer layers. 7 nanometers. Ancient chips that were like from 5 years ago, were 30 nanometers. 30. Chips from back then, 16 years ago, 20 years ago. I don't even know how, were they even measuring them in nanometers back then? I mean, that's crazy, right? We have in our bathrooms at Schrock, if you've ever been in the bathroom at Schrock, Glover Kimberly had this idea. We actually decorated with blueprints of original electronic devices. So here is the patent office blueprint of a floppy drive. And we just framed it and put it on the wall. The patent office blueprint of the transistor, the first microprocessor, if you will. And you realize it has 2 wires on it. We've shrunk that, shrunk it, and shrunk it, and shrunk it into something so small and delicate you have to build it in a clean room. And they're super sensitive to electrostatic discharge. They're super sensitive to heat and thermal dissipation. They can fry if they get too hot. The battery, as we discussed last week, if you leave it out in the sun or you take it out in freezing temperatures, you're gonna cause your battery to swell and have to be replaced. There are so many things that can go wrong with these computers because they're so delicate and so complex. So it's just like, think about your John Deere tractor, guys. 30 years ago, you buy your John Deere tractor, fire it up. Maybe it had a fuel injector, maybe it was a carburetor, right? Now, if there was an EMP, the tractor wouldn't turn on because it's got a push button starter and everything else, and you know the button doesn't actually click. It doesn't go click click. It's just a soft press button. All the lights come on automatically when it's dark. I mean, literally all the things that are automatic in our life right now are all thanks to microchips. And the microchips are getting smaller and smaller and smaller and more delicate. They're getting more powerful as a result, which is one of the only advantages that the Western world has over China, is the fact that we can build more powerful microprocessors than they can. And when you're thinking about weapons of war, the ability to do more with less energy is a huge, what do they call that, force multiplier in the field. So that's how you overcome a larger military forces with better weapons, basically. Smaller number of people with more high-tech weapons, in theory anyway. Thor, to be like Biden, are you going to start reading from a set of notes and lose your place also? Yeah, guys, okay, so he's the president. We're not going to do. There's nothing you can be done about that, right? But it's concerning, right? It's one of those things where, like, remember when Ronald Reagan? I was coming of mental awareness when Ronald Reagan was president, and I remember them saying that he was too old to run. And I've watched clips of him saying he's not going to hold his opponent's youth and inexperience against him. But he was quick-witted and quick on the draw and had the comeback there. But it was always done from a place of humor, but it was always pointed, right? So Ronald Reagan, excuse me, he read from scripts. He had speechwriters, he had a teleprompter, and he read his stuff, and he read it slow. He read it like a grandpa, right? So I'm a little slower to jump on Biden for the senior moments. Full well aware though, when I listen to guys like Dan Bongino who know guys in the Secret Service who are in the White House, and he is hearing things that he won't specifically share, but that are indicative of somebody whose cognitive capabilities are not as sharp as they once were. Does that mean he can't do his job? I don't know, honestly. They're doing a pretty effective job passing this $1 trillion thing through. Effective, I guess, And don't worry, Kamala's there just in case anything goes wrong. Just asking for a friend. Alrighty, so the GIF and GIF thing. Literally, before the show started, Delaney looks at me, she goes, "How do you say GIF? Is it GIF or GIF?" And I thought to myself, I've always said GIF, but I rightly don't know. I don't know. What is the correct way to say that? So I look it up on Google. I mean, how have I been doing this for 20 years? I don't know how to say a common term, right? It's like saying Huawei. I've learned how to say Huawei, even though it doesn't spell anything like it sounds in English. But I don't know how to say GIF or GIF. I'll look it up. So here's the deal. The creator of the graphic interchange format, GIF, has deemed it pronounced as GIF with a J, like the peanut butter. GIF. Other people disagree. So I don't know if we should. That was when the guy on the call said, the creator has said. That's what he meant. The creator of the format has said it was pronounced GIF. He made an acronym. He wants to pronounce it GIF. That's great. Other people want to pronounce it GIF. I'm not going to jump down their throat and correct them. I've been saying GIF my whole life, and now I'm going to probably try to say GIF, so at least I'm technically correct, so that somebody doesn't try to call into the radio show and call me out or whatever. But anyway, the correct way to pronounce it is GIF, like J-I-F, but it's GIF. Dang it! I just said it wrong, didn't I? See, it's going to be really hard. It's going to be one of those things I'm going to have to work on and say it like every week. I'll look in the mirror and it's like, GIF, 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 GIF. Ah! GIF, GIF, GIF. Trained myself to say it right. Oh, boy. All right, so a couple things that have come to my attention this week. The processor shortage is real and it's getting worse. This week, we bought two graphics cards for customers this week. We bought a 1070 GTR 1070 and a GTR 1060 Ti graphics card. We paid $1,400 and $1,600 respectively for each card. Ridiculous, like 4 times markup. Craziness. So I talked to a guy. I'm not going to tell you who this guy is, but he was sharing with me that he's got a good little gig going. And I'm like, I'm always an entrepreneurial guy. What's your gig, right? And he says, well, here's what I'm doing. I'm selling pictures of graphics cards on eBay. I'm like, what do you mean pictures? Like an NFT? Like this is an NFT for my graphics card? No. Like I take a picture of a graphics card from the internet. I don't even take the picture. And I print it, and I sell that printed picture on eBay and mail it to somebody. And I'm like, this is, okay, you got me. Tell me the catch, He goes, well, so here's the thing. The prices for graphics cards are so intense right now that human beings cannot, if one comes up for auction, let's say, there are so many bots bidding on these things. So I get a bunch of bots working. It's constantly monitoring eBay. I know what the buy it now price is. Anything that's 20% lower than the buy it now price, I'm going to buy at auction and then sell at the buy it now price and achieve a 20% profit. So I can turn my bot on and have that bot just go and do its thing. Well, everybody starts doing that, and that's why if you go on eBay right now, you won't win a graphics card in auction for less than what the buy it now price is because the bots are bidding them up. But bots are bots. Bots are stupid. They're programs, right? So what this guy is doing is he's creating an auction on eBay that says, GTX 1070 graphics card new or whatever. And then in the description, so the bot only looks at the title, right? And the title says this is what this is. The bot looks at the price starting at $100 and starts bidding automatically. In the description, he says, you are purchasing a picture of a graphics card. If you are a human being, don't buy this. But if you're one of these scalpers running up the prices of graphics cards by using bots to automatically bid on things on eBay, I want you to be fully aware that you are bidding on a picture that I will print off of a printer of a graphics card. I will ship this picture to you by FedEx next day air with a tracking number. I do not accept refunds. Sorry. And I'm like, okay, so a little bit of a Robin Hood vibe going on here. I'm going to slap down these guys that are, running up the prices on regular people from trying to scalp things and speculate on things. So, okay, give you the little Robin Hood move there. I'm like, dude, how much did you make? How much did you make in the last week? He goes, I made $600 doing this last week. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. $600 selling nothing but a picture to bots? I'm like, they're gonna demand a refund, right? He's like, how? I specified no returns. I was extremely descriptive in my auction of what I was selling. I sent it with a tracking number. I have immediate payment through PayPal. And PayPal, I do not accept returns. They're just going to have to eat it, and that's just going to knock into their 20% profit. Like, eBay is going to kick you off because every time you get a complaint against you, they're going to give you negative feedback. Because I don't care. I'll just make a new account. I made this account to sell these. I'll just make another new one. You got to be kidding me, right, dude? Like, all right. Not exactly the way I would, not how I've done business my life, but God bless you, I guess. Whatever you're going to do doesn't seem quite right. It's one of those gray areas, but I'll reserve judgment. All right, let's move on to Bitcoin. And let's move on to Bitcoin, Omar says. Winston, just think of the peanut butter GIF. Thor, the supply of many items are short due to high demand. What is causing this excess demand, and what do you see coming? Okay, so what's going on right now? Number one, we have increased demand. What's causing the demand? Well, stimulus checks and tax refunds. Remember, the tax refunds were pushed back. You couldn't file until February if you were going to file, if you were going to telefile. So most of the people that are out and about, living life, they're not millionaires. They're just going to work every day. They have extra money taken out of their bank accounts and held by the federal government, so they get a big tax return because that's like a forced savings program to them. They don't realize that you having your own money in your own savings account gets you even more money as long as you have the discipline not to spend it. But these people, for whatever reason, don't feel they have that discipline, so they want a large refund. So Or they want to make sure they don't owe. Maybe they gotten burnt in the past. They just want to make absolutely sure they don't owe any money. No unexpected bills. So you're getting tax refunds coming back. You're also getting huge stimulus checks. Now, I didn't get one because we were, I think, $6,000 in income over the cutoff for a family. I have a family of 5, and we were $6,000 over. And it didn't phase. It kept saying it phases out for people over a certain amount. It doesn't phase out. It's not available. You don't get anything. So we didn't get any of like my family didn't get any of the most recent stimulus check. So I just joked with everyone at the shop, I'll just have to settle for taking everybody else's, I guess. And my guys kind of laughed nervously. I'm like, no, look around. Look at what's happening in here, guys. Why are we selling this many computers all of a sudden? We expected to have a problem this month because we had COVID in March of last year hitting and everybody buying computers to work from home. How on earth are we going to match those numbers or beat them or show growth this year? As a business, you have to show growth. You break it down into quarters, and then we break it down into months, so that we can. If we miss by 40%, which was what we expected if we didn't do anything, if we miss this quarter by 40% revenue, we're going to spend the next 2 quarters making that up to get back to even. We might end the year ahead. We can't have that. We've got to be ahead. We have to grow because inflation. We've got to grow. We got to grow 20% a year. That's what we shoot for. So how do we not only match these COVID numbers, but grow 20% on them? Well, the answer is last year when COVID hit, nobody was buying services, everybody was buying hardware. Now that we're getting vaccinated, everybody's coming back out for the services. So first of all, people have a ridiculous amount of savings right now. Now, I know I'm saying that, and there's people out there that have had a really hard time, like they haven't been able to work, like the gentleman that I read the letter from at the start of the program. So I'm not trying to make people feel, one way or the other. But statistically, if we chart this out, the average savings rate of Americans is absolutely historically astronomical right now. Because you couldn't go out to eat. You couldn't go to the movies. You couldn't go on vacation. If you still had a job, you were still earning money. But you couldn't spend any of it anywhere. There was nothing to buy. Well, and anything you bought, you already had. Some people got a dog, It's like, I got a dog. And did you get another dog? I have a computer. Did you buy another computer? I have a phone. Did you buy another phone? How many times can you buy these things, right? In a year. So people just didn't have anything to spend their money on. And so now that everybody's getting vaccinated, we're starting to see this, especially in the elderly populations first. They are out and about. They're in the service centers, and where local regulations permit, specifically in Des Moines and in Papillion, they are bareface. So they're feeling safe and confident and able to go out into the world again. And they have extra savings, pent-up savings, because people who are retired, who are used to living on a fixed income, they got stimmies too. They got these huge stimulus checks. They were able to pay down their MasterCard balances. They were able to put money into savings, or get that car fixed, or get the water heater replaced, or do the work around the house that they've been putting off, the delayed maintenance. Some people decided during the pandemic, after now they're going to sell their house, or they did sell their house. Houses right now are selling for a ridiculous amount of money. If I did not have a family of 5 right now, I would sell my house and move into an apartment for the next 5 years, because this can't go on the way that the real estate market is right now. It's going to come down eventually. It has to, at least somewhat. So I want to try to sell it as high as I can, move into something temporary, and then go back out. Let me give you an example of what's so nuts right now in the economy. So that's the demand side, okay? The supply side is the other part of this equation. During COVID, when COVID hit, everybody bought everything, right? We emptied out the warehouses. We emptied out the supply chain. Nothing was getting made, and everything that was either in storage or en route got purchased and sold. Now, people are trying to manufacture to refill the warehouses, the stockpile basically, and supply current demand. As we've already explained, current demand is an order of magnitude higher than it was before the pandemic, because people have money. People have been cooped up. People feel like they've done their time. They deserve something nice, whether that be a vacation. Whether the cruise lines were booking cruises and now they can't go anymore. How many people are ticked about that? 20% of Americans are expected to sell their house this year. They plan to sell this year, and over half of Americans plan to take a vacation in the next 60 days. Where are you going to go? You ain't going to Europe. what did they screw up over there? How is it that they're the, I don't know. Anyway, so you have dramatically increased supply based on excess income, excess money sitting around, and a belief that you're entitled to do something finally. On the demand side, you can't take cruises. You can't travel overseas to Europe really right now. Um, Chip manufacturers cannot keep up with demand to the point where Ford wants to sell trucks, Chevy wants to sell trucks, Tesla wants to sell Teslas. Guess what? They can't get the chips. So that everything's, your transmission's controlled by a processor, your engine's controlled by a chip. They can't get the chips, so they can't finish the trucks. So you're going to start to see inventory declining on car lots, which is going to cause the prices of vehicles to climb. When I bought my truck at the start of the pandemic, literally I had a conversation with the salesman. These things are gold right now because we don't know when we're going to get more. So literally, management is not allowing me to discount anything. There is no negotiation. The price is the price, because I don't think we may be a used car lot 6 months from now because we may not be able to get new cars. It's happening all over again now because people are buying new cars. People are deciding maybe Ubering everywhere isn't the best idea after all. Maybe I should buy a car. The price of used cars in the last month has gone up 3% overall, average, which doesn't sound like a huge increase, right? That's a 1 month increase in the price of used cars, 3%. During the pandemic, my wife and I, we have a special needs daughter, and whenever we travel anywhere, it takes her some time to acclimate to the hotel room. She's not autistic, but she has some of the same markers, right? So anything that changes in food. Like we took her to Cracker Barrel last night. It wasn't Kraft macaroni and cheese, so she wouldn't eat it. She's 8, right? You'd think that she would just eat stuff by now, but no. That's just Katie, right? So we thought, let's buy an RV. Number one, travel isn't going to go back to normal anytime soon, and if we want to go anywhere in 2020, we're going to have our own hotel room to bring with us, right? That was the first idea. And we knew nothing about RVing, and so we were learning it all on the fly. The second thing is we thought with the kids, having Katie at a familiar space, she would acclimate a lot quicker in her RV adventure space, right? And she would say, let's go on an adventure. And we're like, oh, she's so cute. It's an RV adventure. She'd get in the RV. It was great. So we bought a 311BH, a Grand Design 311 bunkhouse. It's a long one. I got a new truck to pull it. I got an F-350 so I can pull it. That was the new truck I bought. And, I think we used it 5, 6, 7 times during COVID. It was a nice little getaway when there was nothing else available to do. It was kind of neat. It was also kind of boring because everything was closed at the campgrounds, and we were staying at places like the KOA because everything was full because all the niche places, the niche campgrounds had closed for COVID. So it forced all of the full-time RV people into like KOAs and everything like that, the lower end places to stay. And as a result, it was hard to find spaces and things. Right now, try to book it. My wife sat down yesterday. She sat down yesterday in the morning. She goes, because we're going on a vacation this year. We have this big RV. We're taking it somewhere. We're going to like Yellowstone. We're going somewhere. So she starts trying to plan it out. Full, year out, 2 years out. And then driving. It's going to take us 6, 7 days to get there and 6, 7 days to get back because you can only drive like 4 hours basically. So now I question that. I'm like, I could drive 8 hours. Oh, that'd be fine, But I don't know. I'm pulling a giant rig. She's like, well, you can. Yeah, let's say you can drive 8 hours, but you can't drive 80 miles an hour with the rig. You got to drive under the speed limit, so you're not going to get as far. I'm like, okay, that's true. That's true. So you're not. You're going to have a lot more time on the road. She goes, and for us working and having like kids in school and stuff, if we're retired, we don't really care how long it takes to get us there. We're just going to go. We're just going to enjoy the trip, enjoy the journey. But when you have kids that can only miss so many days of school, like Katie, or you have a job like Schrock where you have to be there, you can take a couple weeks off, but if you spend 1 week of your 2-week vacation driving, that's not very fun. She's like, I think we made a poor choice buying this. I think we should have, she told me, I came home, she goes, I think we need to sell it. And I was like, oh, come on, you gotta be kidding me, right? We just bought this thing. This is like literally the most expensive thing that we have ever outright owned. Like it's paid off, we own it. And I was so proud of that. But I'm like, okay, well, if we're not going to use it and it costs us money to store it every month and insure it, and if we're not going to be able to use it for what we intended to use it for, it doesn't make sense to hang on to it out of misplaced pride. So let's sell it. Here's the example, guys. This is bringing it full circle to the economy now. Right now, we can sell that 311 bunkhouse, the highest market rate for it. We've made improvements to it. We like replaced a bunch of fixtures and stuff, and we re-wallpapered the whole thing and modified the design because some of the stuff they did was stupid. Put in a bigger TV. It's a smart TV. Did a whole bunch of work to it. Even if it was stock, we could sell it for $15,000 more than we paid for it a year ago. The used RV sells for $15,000 more than we paid for it new 1 year ago. In the height of COVID, when everybody was buying RVs. Get this, why are the RVs used going for so much? If you go to buy a new RV, you've got a 6-month wait because the companies that make the RVs can't produce them fast enough to refill the dealer inventories on lots and produce the special order ones for people while they're maintaining 6-foot social distancing and working in masks and doing all this other stuff. Just not as productive. So that's what's happening. We can't make things as fast. The demand is through the roof. What happens when you have a bunch of people trying to buy the same thing? Look at housing. What happens when you have 5 people interested in the same house? Your offer, when you make an offer, better be $10,000 or $15,000 over the asking price if you want your offer to even be considered, because you know the other guy's going to do it too. So that's the world we're in right now. So where do I see it going from here? The cold snap in Texas apparently idled and damaged equipment at plastic manufacturing facilities. I did not realize that most of the consumer electronics plastic that we use in the United States is actually made in Texas. So you're going to see shortages in computer housings, cell phone housings, the plastic parts that hold everything, the cases, anything with a plastic component, keyboards, all plastic, right? Things like that. Now, of course, some of this is made overseas, right? But the plastics economy is like the oil economy. If there's a shortage in one part of the world, it causes the prices everywhere to go up as that shortage is filled from other places, which isn't a big deal. We'll just float some through that canal over. Oh, shoot, there's a ship stuck in there, and 200 ships in both directions can't get through. So now there's going to, and a lot of the stuff coming through there doesn't come all the way to America, right? It's going to go to Europe, it's going to go to Africa, it's going to go to other places. But if those places can't get the normal stuff that they get normally, they're going to buy from places that can get it to them, which is going to cause shortages elsewhere. Number one shortage that you're looking at right now, probably going forward in the next 6 months, is toilet paper. Hate to say it. Prices of wood pulp are through the roof. You could probably invest in toilet paper right now. All those people who bought like 10 years of toilet paper right now, they actually are. If you could sell that toilet paper for like the actual supermarket price right now, you're having a better gain than if you bought gold at the start of the pandemic, because the price of wood pulp is up 25%. And now, guess what? We can't transport it because a lot of that wood pulp comes through that canal. So, toilet paper. Expect to see that in the next 3 months being a shortage item again. I would make sure you have, don't go crazy. Don't buy 10 years worth of toilet paper, but have enough on hand that you can, make sure that you can remain clean. Don't want to do them dirty like John. All right, let's see. I have 3 MacBook Pros we use regularly for Zoom and video recording, 1 iPad, cell phones, and iPhones. We have 2 different PCs we use for office operations. One PC is built with a dual processor server board with a dual 6-core Intel Xeon processors, 24 gigs of RAM. Oh, well, why did it go away? There we go. Let's see. Scrolling down. Any more input on that, as well as how I could have a further conversation with you and streamlining the setup, not only for where we are now, but in the future when we're expecting things. Oh, okay. So yeah, basically it sounds like you have quite the operation set up there for your home. But it's something we can definitely send a technician out to look at. Now, a lot of people think they want me, right? They think I see Thor on the radio, I hear Thor talking, I want Thor to solve my problem. And I'm happy to talk to anybody that wants to talk to me. But the brutally honest truth is, I hire guys that are better than me. We all have our strengths. God gives us all our individual talents. Mine happens to be communicating. I am technically adept. I have to be to communicate about it. But let's just say when I took my niece's iPhone apart, I split the screen in half. When the guys in the shop do it, they don't. Why is that? Because they've done it a lot more than me. They do it every day. It's their job. That's the guy you want coming out to look at this. Someone like Parker, like Gabriel, someone to come out who's got server experience, because you do have server grade equipment, and to figure out the best way to create an in-home network that's going to run well for what you want to do. So definitely give us a call, Scott, in the service centers. Papillion Service Center sends everything out for Omaha and Papillion. The Lincoln Service Center does on-sites for the Lincoln area, and of course Des Moines for Des Moines as well. All right, Ron, please explain why there is a chip shortage. I really don't understand. China isn't forcing the factories to make them so they can dominate the market. Okay, so Ronald, there's a chip shortage because China can't make chips. China does not know how to make chips. They may know how, but they don't have the equipment, the training, the employee base. That's why so many people from China come over to America and are employed in semiconductors, because they're literally being trained in the American industry, and then they go back to China with that knowledge, and China encourages that. So right now, China does not have the ability to domestically produce microprocessors like Intel Core i7s or AMD Ryzen chips. They can produce, I would say, chips. They're probably 5 to 7 years behind us in what they can produce domestically. So they can produce microchips domestically for that will, for their kind of stuff. That's why when you get Chinese stuff, like when you get stuff from Alibaba and you think, oh, that's so much cheaper than it is in America, then you get it and you realize it's just a little bit slower, it just uses the battery a little bit faster. It's because the chips are different, and the chips are older chips compared to what we're using in all of the American gear, the high-tech gear. So you have Samsung making 7 nanometer chips and China selling 30 nanometer chips still. So when China approaches me, factories in China come to us all the time. They want us to sell their laptops. They want us to sell their all-in-ones. And they're like, well, we have these great things, and we can do this and we can do that. The speed's not there. The chips aren't there. I'm like, well, I need i5. I need 10th gen i5 if I'm going to do this. Or Ryzen. At least 2nd gen Ryzen. 3rd gen preferably. 5th gen would be great, but I'm not going to ask for the moon here. And they're like, sorry, we can't. They'll do it, but the price they quote is astronomically higher than what anyone here would pay. So why wouldn't I just buy the Asus unibody and modify it? Because it's a lot cheaper, and I can get all the parts that I want with the 7 nanometer chips. So that's why we don't have a made in China. So the reason that there's a shortage, number one, most of your semiconductors are made in Taiwan. They're made in Korea. Trying to think of where else. Maybe the Philippines. That's where most of your high-grade semiconductors are manufactured. The factories, the chips have to be manufactured in a clean room. The clean rooms are boxes, basically, you work in. So now imagine social distancing inside that box. You have to stay 6 feet apart. So normally, we've all seen it on TV, right? All the people in the Apple assembly factory working literally shoulder to shoulder, building iPhones or doing things like that. They went from that to that. And now that cut their productivity by 50%. And then everybody bought something that had chips in it. Everybody. If you bought a toaster, you bought something that had chips in it. You bought a coffee machine. Did you buy an espresso machine to make your own coffee at home during the pandemic? You bought something with microchips in it. Well, guess what? All those chips have to be made somewhere. And so some of these factories specialize in certain types of chips. So there is one factory, for example, last week, that specialized in automotive microprocessors. Except they had a fire in their clean room that melted literally, it was like the clean room is destroyed. They're idled now, completely idled. So now the chip shortage is going to get worse for auto manufacturers. And so then some of this is a self-fulfilling prophecy. There's a chip shortage out, right? How many of you bought a laptop this month because you're worried you won't be able to buy one 3 months from now? That's a real worry. I'm sitting here saying to myself, how many laptops should I buy this week because I don't know what the price is going to be next week? And there will come, Schrock is selling a ton of computers because we have not raised our prices. We have done some crafty, innovative, inventory building things that have allowed us to continue to sell through our stockpile, basically, without raising prices, so we can capture market share. That obviously can't go on forever. Eventually, the prices will have to go up, which is why we're low on catalogs right now, and we haven't reprinted them yet, because we don't know. We don't know 6 months from now what the prices are going to be. So we're going to put off those catalogs as long as we can, not because we can't afford to print the catalogs, because we don't know what the prices are going to be. We don't want to print a whole bunch of catalogs and then have to nix them, print a whole bunch more. But if that's what has to happen, that's what has to happen. We continue to look forward at new products. Shelley had an idea for something, and at first I thought it was really stupid, okay? I thought it was dumb. But it turns out it might have a little promise. So there are these things that are made, they're little plastic clips that go over the top edge of your laptop. Sorry, I just put my hand right in front of the camera. Like you can see I was touching a laptop. But you have the camera on top that faces out, and this is a little cover that just goes right over the top. It's paper thin so you can still close your laptop, but it's just a clip cover that covers up the camera. And it's got a little slider on it so you can slide it open or close to expose your camera or hide it. It's brilliant. Shelley's like, we should print Schrock on those and sell them. We could sell them for $10 a piece. And they cost $2 a piece. We'd make $8 a piece on them. Make a fortune. And I'm like, Shelley, I don't really think a lot of people are going to buy our clips to hide their cameras. I appreciate that. Probably have to print 1,000 of them. And so then I said, okay, this is how this, you're looking at like imprint.com. They want a quarter per device or whatever. And we're going to sell them for $5. So I see what you're saying. But now let me show you something. If we go to China and have them made with injection molding, which is where 4imprint gets theirs from, we can get them for 2 cents a piece with our name pre-printed on them. And she was like, you got 2 cents? You got to be kidding me. I'm like, exactly. This is why nobody makes anything in America. Because think about that. You're going to have to pay somebody an annual salary of $60,000 a year to make the design, just to make the mold. Or no, sorry, to make the design for the mold. Then you have to pay another $60,000 or $70,000 a year guy to actually take that design and create a mold. Then you have to have all the injection molding equipment and all the plastic, remember the shortage from Texas, to injection mold this stuff and make it. But you need operators to run the injection molder. That's a factory job, but they're unionized, so that's going to be $15, $20 an hour easy per employee. And each employee might be able to make a few hundred pieces a day. So yeah, if you want to make 1,000, that's a few days work, but you can't just hire the guy for a few days. You got to train him and everything else. That's why people don't make things in America. To make that product in America would cost 10 times, easily 10 times, what it would cost to make it in China, because they don't pay their people anything. And their entire economy is geared for this. Whereas we are geared as a consumer economy, they are geared as a producer economy. And they're trying desperately to get consumption online. But it's pretty neat. So I said, let's order 4 of them. We can get them on Amazon. Let's order 4 of them and just see how they work and how they feel and click. And she's going to make a couple prototypes with her Cricut machine with the Schrock logo on them. And if they look good and there's something that people want, I said, Shelley, we put a Schrock modular computer sticker on every modular computer we build. We don't put anything on the laptop. Like, it doesn't get any stickers. No one really wants a sticker. If you want a sticker on your laptop, you can put it on your own laptop. I'm not going to put a sticker on your laptop. But I could give you a free clip that cost me 2 cents that allows you to control your privacy on that camera. That's kind of cool. I like that. So yeah, we're looking into that. So it's we try to always look into things that we can look into. Sorry, this thing is going really long here. I apologize. I kind of got off on the track here. But that's why there's a chip shortage. It's because demand is up, production is down, and there's nothing in the supply chain. Every cargo ship that loses containers over the side, which seem to be maybe it's always happened, but you just never heard about it. But now every time it happens, you hear about 12 containers fell off a cargo ship in high seas in the Pacific Ocean, or now there's a canal blocked, can't get that. Heaven forbid there's a military conflict that breaks out, because if something like that would happen, the whole world would stop. Interesting. Omaha normally has 3,500 homes for sale. Now there are only 500. So people are paying $30,000 over asking price. Sell your house and move into the RV. If I didn't have 5 kids, I would. Seriously, like literally, I thought about it. We should sell this house because the house is ridiculous. People with a house half our size are selling theirs for like $300,000, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, we're going to refinance it, but I mean, I refinanced it on a 15-year. I didn't see the need to push it out to 30 again. I like to own things. I like to have things paid off. Doesn't make a lot of sense. My accountant's like, Thor, you can deduct the interest, but, whatever. Is the MAC number any place other than on the back of the router? The MAC address for your router is a program number on the chip. So usually you can get the MAC address programmatically. You can type commands on the keyboard to bring up the MAC address, but it is printed on the back of the router on a sticker. Anybody who's connected to your network will probably be able to get your MAC address. The rumor is Biden was driving the ship. Oh, golly, Richard. The ship ran aground in the canal because it was going through when a sandstorm hit, and it was high winds and rough seas, basically, and it ran the ship aground. They're hoping that today there's a combination of more high wind, hopefully blowing in the other direction, and very much high tide from full moon will help lift the ship up and out. But the company that's moving the ship said it could take weeks to get it moved. And now, let's see. Where are most of the chips made? I already told you about that. Although great news, guys, Intel is opening up a microchip plant in Arizona. They're investing like $30 million in a new Arizona manufacturing plant to onshore manufacturing of microprocessors. I mean, it's literally a national security matter to have some processors being made here. So that's awesome to see. And now the 6 feet thing is seemingly odd since they dropped it to 3 feet suddenly for schools anyway. The funny thing about the 6 foot thing is there's no science that shows that is actually sufficient. Is 12 feet sufficient? Is 4 feet sufficient? There's no science. Basically, that was 1900s science that said stay 6 feet apart, and that was it. So they just literally pulled out the previous pandemic playbook and said stay 6 feet apart. So everybody did. Now they're saying with masks and everything else, you can stay 3 feet apart. When in reality, okay, I got to be careful because I don't want to get canceled. I got to be careful because people's lives were impacted by the coronavirus. People lost people. People got sick. People died. So I got to be a little sensitive to that. I spent the last year working in my service centers side by side with my 15 staff members. We did not wear masks. Well, in the beginning we did because we were all afraid. Nobody knew what was going on. But as kind of reality settled in a little bit, and honestly, time wore on, it's hard to talk on the phone in a mask. It is hard. Why are we wearing masks? We have 2 guys in the back who are on the opposite sides of the room. We have 1 gal up front who's by herself 90% of the day. Why are we wearing masks? It's like the people who wear masks when they drive around in their car. You're by yourself in the car. Why are you wearing a mask? You're just used to it. You just like it. I don't know. Maybe your face is cold. I don't know. So we weren't wearing masks. We had a couple employees who got COVID. Parker got it. He had a 2-week vacation at home, during which time he couldn't taste anything, but had no other ill symptoms. He lives in an 800 square foot studio apartment with his wife, who did not get it. We had another employee whose brother got it, so he was out because his brother had it. During that same period of time, during the pandemic, I got shingles. I am 44 years old and I got shingles. I thought that was literally like, I went to the pharmacy and I was talking to the pharmacist because I was, of course, like 11 o'clock at night when I'm getting this antiviral because I let it go so long. I'm like, oh, it hurts so bad. So finally I'm like, give me my antivirals. And I'm talking to this girl. She might have been 22. I'm like, I thought shingles was only something that happened to old people. And she looked at me kind of funny. And then she looked away, and then she just started gathering the medicine. And in that moment, I realized she thinks I'm an old person. 44 is old to her. Great. So I got shingles. Yay. Got over that. And then I had my appendix out during the pandemic. So I didn't get COVID, but I got a disease that only hits old people, and my appendix decided to suddenly go out. But I didn't get COVID. Don't know anybody. My uncle got COVID. I don't know anybody who died of COVID. I know some people who were hospitalized of COVID. I know people who have relatives who were hospitalized for COVID. I know people who have relatives who passed away because of COVID. So you got to be a little sensitive about it. But I don't think we should have locked down young, healthy people. I think we should have told elderly people that it's risky to be out and about right now. I'm totally for setting aside like specific times when you can go to the grocery store and there's not all these young people gallivanting around in the grocery store or whatever. I think shutting down the entire economy was a huge mistake when you have a workforce of young people who can go to work and pay the taxes that pay the Social Security benefits for the retired people that can stay home, that can choose to stay home. Just me. I got a couple employees who don't want to come back. They're terrified. They don't want to come back into the office. And I'm in the process of trying to decide how we deal with that. We all agreed that April 5th was the comeback date. We all agreed. And now there's some mind changing, unilateral mind changing. You do that any other company, you're done, you're gone, right? I value my people a lot. They're good people. They're here because they're good. But I can't have my people just deciding when they're going to show up to work and when they're not. They'll argue that they're working hard from home. And I'll argue, I can't tell because I don't see you. I haven't seen you in a year. I need that. As a manager, I need that. I need to know you're focused. Otherwise, I start thinking dark thoughts, and you don't want that. So anyway, the pandemic has worked a number over on everybody, but it's depleted all the supply lines. I still can't buy Diet IBC root beer anywhere. My wife's popsicles that she likes that are from Mexico, they don't carry them at Hy-Vee anymore for some reason. I don't know if they can't get them or what. Literally, like, just weird stuff is out of stock. I go to buy memory now. Memory for computers. I used to be able to get it I could next day air it in. Now I can't because they're literally selling it as it comes in. When I place my orders for components, I say, okay, this month I want 65 power supplies. And they're like, sorry, we have 40. So I'll take 40, okay? Next up, I want, this many hard drives, this many capacities. We have to wait till Tuesday to ship that. Is that okay? Because we get a boat in on Tuesday. Like, literally, they're selling it off the boat right now, guys. That's how short everything is. So when I tell you that, we're scrapping and struggling to get graphics cards for ventures, for example, virtually impossible. RX 550s, $200 for a used 2 gig RX 550 graphics card that was $69.99 before the pandemic. Tell me there's no inflation. It's coming. So I guess what I would do, obviously, the things they exclude from the inflation calculation are the things that are going to get hit first and hardest, food and fuel. Make sure you're gassed up and make sure you've got a good freezer full of food. Now's the time to buy it. Farmers are going to do great this year, I think. I am not a farmer and I don't pretend to understand the intricacies of the agricultural commodity markets, but if food prices are going up, it would stand to reason logically that component ingredient prices would go up. But that means the cost for the farmers is also going to go up. Their fuel cost is going to go up. Their seed cost is going to go up. Their chemical cost is going to go up. Service costs might go up too. I don't know. So maybe the costs are going to go up higher than the increase in the amount. I don't know. The stock market is going to go up. We're going to see a tumultuous time, and then it's going to go up again. The price of everything interest rates are going to go up. Bitcoin is going to go up. Everything is going to go up. The thing that scares me, and I'll end the show on this one, guys. My wife and I took my son. We'd been here before, but it's a cool museum in Kansas City. It's the World War I Museum. It's the National World War I Museum, the museum of the United States for World War I. And we took my son there and his friend. He's learning about World War I in history right now, so we thought, let's take him to the museum, right? And, I've been there once before, but the museum is so epically massive, you can't possibly take it all in one visit. So the second time around, I took a lot of extra time because the kids were running around looking at all the guns and stuff, and I'm reading, and I'm reading, and I'm reading. And, of course, anyone with any basic history knows World War I started with an assassination. Right, so there was a dude, the Archduke Ferdinand was assassinated, caused a web of interlocking treaties to be activated, which put everybody at war with each other, right? So I'm thinking here, Archduke was assassinated by Austria-Hungary, okay? Austria-Hungary went to war. Russia declared war on Austria-Hungary because of this, right? Germany came to the defense of Austria-Hungary and declared war on Russia. Because Russia was allied with France on the other border of Germany, France declares war on Germany. Yet somehow World War I was Germany's fault. How do you figure? But anyway, so it was kind of interesting to me. But then, very much in that time, that was a time, if you look back historically on it, and this is the thing that most history classes don't give kids. And this is one of the reasons we homeschool, why we go to museums and things like this while we're learning about a subject in school. You learn about why it all happened, but you don't learn the wider context. That all these countries were ruled by monarchies. They were all kings and queens and dukes and duchesses and all this stuff. They were almost all related by blood in some way to Queen Elizabeth. by marriage or blood. There was it was more than just treaties. There was secret arrangements and complex deals, limitations on military stuff and treaties and things that was getting violated left and right. Germany was doing things that it wasn't supposed to be doing. It was raising the ire. It was threatening England's empire because they were building dreadnought battleships all of a sudden to challenge England on the seas. And England's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. That's the biggest battleship I've ever seen. You just rendered every battleship in the fleet obsolete. This would be like if China built like a giant super aircraft carrier, like maybe the size of an island, where they just built an island out of the ocean floor and put an airstrip on it to project power out into the South China Sea. That's the kind of stuff Germany was doing. And all the time saying, no, no, it's all peaceful. I mean, we're good. We're just defending ourselves, right? If you look at the numbers, so you look at, there's a chart that showed all the numbers of like tanks and ships and destroyers and all kinds of things that the Allies had and that Germany had. And you could see at the beginning of the war, Germany had less than half of everything that the Allies had. Very much like China right now has less than half of the military that the U.S. has, let alone the rest of the world. Then you see what happened during the war. Germany decided to produce military equipment, almost exclusively. And overnight, they launched a war machine that had never been seen by the likes of man. Tell me that couldn't happen in China, a country that produces everything. They don't care how many tanks they lose or how many planes get shot down. They're just going to build more. They don't care how many soldiers they lose. They've got plenty. They got soldiers. They can walk them toward you with handguns and have enough soldiers to overrun your lines. Doesn't matter. And the whole world was being held together by a web of intricate agreements and treaties and secret arrangements. Sounds a lot like right now, doesn't it? When Trump was elected, he was starting to blow up some of those agreements. And you could see that people would say, we can't do this, or we can't say that, or we can't do that, because if we do those things, the world will collapse, And Trump was like, pull a straw out. Look, it didn't fall. Pull another straw out. Look, it didn't fall. Put those straws back in America's puzzle. We're building ourselves up bigger. Not wrong. But the people who built that order were freaking out because they're like, you're destroying the world order. And if you collapse this thing, we're not in a place to replace it right now. And Trump's argument was, we could be if we just did these things. So, clashing worldviews, right? Scares the heck out of me as I was walking through that museum and looking at all of the things and the people, looking at the pictures of Pershing when he was a young man in World War I, looking at the first American battalion to ever fight in a war, like an actual overseas war. They didn't even know if they could do anything. The Europeans thought they were a joke. These Americans. Do you know the first troops that landed in World War I were actually an African American unit? And they were dressed in Civil War coats, blue with gold buttons. Just crazy stuff. So definitely recommend the World War I Museum. If you're a history person or something that's interested, if you go down there and look at it and you think about what's going on in the world right now, everything in that time was about territory and resources. And right now, China is all about territory and resources. And the rest of the world is like, oh, we can stop using oil and go to all electric. I don't know how we're going to make that much electricity. Even Toyota says, you guys are you're crazy because there's not enough power to power that many cars. But we're going to do it anyway because, yay, we're America, yay. It's crazy, right? Meanwhile, China's grabbing coal-fired plants, nuclear plants, any kind of plants it can get, hydroelectric plants, and some solar farms too, but we'll make most of the solar panels and sell them to them stupid Americans. Then, we can take down their whole war machine. We'll seed some clouds. Cloudy. You can't get solar in the clouds, Bill Gates wants to throw chalk dust in the atmosphere to cool the planet. What's that going to do for solar power? Anybody think about that? These are the things, using the noodle. All right, so much longer than expected, guys. Sorry about that. Would I recommend Western Digital versus Seagate versus Toshiba? Toshiba is going to be the cheapest, Scott, because it uses a liquid suspended ball bearing in its hard drive. Um, when it gets old, the lubricant dries out and the motor stops turning. Seagate and Western Digital are virtually interchangeable. For external hard drives, however, Western Digital, they call it the Western Digital MyBook and the Western Digital Passport because they are encrypted hard drives. So in other words, if you have a hard drive in a USB enclosure and the enclosure fails, sometimes you can get your data by just taking the hard drive out and hooking it up to a computer. Well, if you have a Western Digital, that won't work because they're encrypted. They have to have the chip from the enclosure to decrypt the data. So if I was going to recommend a drive that you were going to go buy out in the wild, I would say Seagate. If I was going to recommend an external hard drive to you, I would say please stay tuned. We haven't talked much about them yet, but the all-new USB-C Schrock modular storage devices are in stock in the service centers. We're gonna launch them with the next catalog launch officially, but they're in the service centers because we're out of the old ones, so we put them up. They work great. I tested one out the other day with lovely Kimberly's data, and she had a whole hard drive that we had to put in an enclosure, and and I had to run some commands on it, and it was so fast. So definitely, we sell enclosures that we can put solid state hard drives in. We can put mechanical hard drives in, and you can pretty much name the capacity. We'll custom make you, kind of like Subway, but with hard drives. We'll be your hard drive artist and put your sandwich or hard drive enclosure together for you. All right. Let's see. Making sure I got everybody answered here. Watch the new China Silk Road on Amazon. Eye-opening. Okay, I'll take a look at that. We're watching Godless right now on Netflix. It's only one season, though, so we'll be done with it pretty quick. Let's see. Love the show. Thank you, Janine. I appreciate it. Do you have any input on what type of enterprise drives you would recommend for long-term video stability and drive lifespan and a robust storage system? Okay, so enterprise drives typically run slower than regular hard drives, but they are more robust in their design. They're a little more stable and engineered for a longer lifespan. Enterprise drives, I think that's Western Digital makes red. The enterprise drives are red drives. And then Seagate uses, I think it's called Iron Horse drives. And they're interchangeable. I prefer the Iron Horse drives myself. That's what I've sold to most customers in this situation. They're a little bit less expensive than the Western Digital ones. The Western Digital ones are kind of the brand name go-to for everybody. The drives are virtually identical, though. All right, guys, got to wrap it up. Have a great afternoon. Next weekend, by the way, for those of you insiders who know how the show works, WHO does not have anyone on Easter Sunday in studio to turn our show. So when we record the show next week, I could do the show live here, but then it wouldn't air in Des Moines. So I'm going to have to do a pre-recorded show for next week. But I will do a video component, and I will launch the video component as if it was a live show. So I'm going to try to make it look as live and interactive as possible. I'll be present to interact with you in the comments section during the program. So it'll be like I'm really here, but I'll be able to talk a lot more with my keyboard when we're doing the segments. So we're going to have a lot of educational stuff in the show. We're going to be doing what's called an evergreen show next week. That's a show that if Thor ever gets hit by a bus or if his appendix bursts or something crazy and he can't get into the studio, they have a show they can run. We used the evergreen show when I had my appendix situation, and apparently it was talking about endpoint still, semantic endpoint. So we have to cut a new evergreen show to have in the can, basically, if you will. So that's what's going to be next week. So it'll be an interesting show, I promise, but it will be pre-recorded. You'll have some video to look at, but there will not be an After Schrock. So you're going to have to go to church on Easter Sunday. Just saying. All right, guys. Have a great afternoon. We'll talk to you soon. See you next. Well, you'll see me next weekend, and I'll talk to you next weekend. Have a great day.